Welcome back guys, this is Richard from Productivv Academy, and in this Flutter tutorial I'm going to give you a basics of the Dart programming language. So if you don't know already what is Dart programming language, Dart is the programming language used by Flutter to code Flutter apps. So this programming language can be directly converted into both Android and iOS code. So before we dive into Flutter, we need to know the basics of Dart programming language, right? So in this video is going to be a complete crash course of the Dart programming language, and I'm not going to be teaching you all the programming concepts right from the beginning. I'm just going to show you how things work in Dart. I'm not going to show you what is a if condition, or I'm not going to explain those things in detail. So it's better if you know some basics of programming on any language. If you know Python or Java, any language is fine. Make sure you know some basics of programming before you dive into this video. So without any further ado, let's get started. Go to your browser and type in Dartpad and go to this link dartpad.dev. So this is an online Dart IDE or a compiler. So yes, I'm inside my compiler and this is my default Dart code. So yeah, so this is my default Dart code. I can run it or I can erase it and write from the beginning. So whenever you're using Dart, there is something called as void main. So any code you write should be inside this void main function. Any code inside this void main function will be running. Anything outside this function will not be running, and it will show you an error. So let me print something. Let me say print hello, and Dart should have semicolon at the end. If you are used to Python like me, I'm used to Python actually, so Dart should have semicolon at the end. Make sure you are putting semicolon at the end of every line. And okay, so I'm printing something inside the void main function. Now let me run it. I'll click on run. Let me zoom in the window a little bit, and I will push this side. Yeah, this is better. So yeah, when I ran hello, print hello, my output is hello. So my code works. Now let me try to print something outside the void main function. I'll say print hello Richard. Alright, so I'm printing something outside the void main function, semicolon, and when I run this, it's showing me an error. Expected an identifier line 5, a function body must be provided, because I'm writing this outside a function. In Python this would work, but in Dart this is not working because Dart needs to be compiled inside a function. So if I cut this part and write it inside this void main function, and now I'll run it. Yeah, it works perfectly for me now. It's showing me hello Richard. So this is the way you print something in Dart, and void main is the part that will be running whenever you are compiling your Dart code. So main part of your code or the function should be called inside void main. So this is the part that will be running. So now let's dive into variables in Dart. I hope you know what are variables already. Variables are memory storage location in which you can store numbers, letters, and even boolean values. So let's get started. And if you are used with Python, you know variables don't need to have their data type right here, but in Dart you need to give their data type. Like I'm defining a number now. I'll say n equals 20, and this 20 is an integer, so I should say int n. So this variable is an integer and I'm going to store an integer value inside it. So I need to give the data type before the variable, and here I'll print the result. I'll say print n, and hopefully 20 will be printed for us. So let's see, and I say run. Alright, now 20 is being printed for us. So whenever you define a variable in Dart, you need to specify the data type. Let me define another variable. I'll call it string name. I'll say name equals Richard, R-I-C-H-A-R-D. So alright, and a semicolon, and I'll print my name, print name. So let's see now. So this is a string, so we need to give string before the variable name. Alright, you can see first I'm printing my name, so it's saying Richard, and the next one is the number n, that is 20. What if you want to change your variable in Python? Or in Python you can change your variable very easily, but in Dart it's not possible. It's not really possible. Well, if I want to change the variable name, like I have assigned the variable name as Richard, what if I want to change it into a number? For example, I'll say 30. Will it work? Let's try and run it. Obviously I'm getting an error. So I'm getting an error here. A value of type int can be assigned to a variable of type string. So this variable is type string and I'm storing an integer in it. It is not possible, but in Python it was possible, but it's not possible in Dart. So what if you want to assign different values to a variable, or you want to change the data types to a variable? There's a function for that too. So you can say something called as dynamic. You can define a dynamic variable, and I'll call it n equals, and I'll give it a name Richard, and I'll give a semicolon, and I'll print it, print n. All right, so let's see the results now. Okay, I'm not giving the semicolon. Well, I'm so used to Python and I can't just get used to this Dart language very soon. All right. Okay, so I'm getting the result as Richard, so it's working perfectly. Now what if I want to change my variable? That is the point, right? I need to change the type of my variable. I'll say n equals, I'm saying the same variable name, equals 30, and kindly note I'm not giving any data type before it. I'm just changing the data type and changing the value completely. Now if I say print n, and if I run it, it's taking a lot of time to run. Maybe my internet is slow. Alright, so I'm getting the value Richard in the first when I'm printing it, and then I'm changing the value into 30, and when I print it I'm getting the value as 30. What if I change it again? Well, let me change it again into n equals, well, I'll say Rosario. That is my second name, by the way. What if I change it? Oh my god, semicolon, and I'll print it here, print n. Alright, so it's working. I'm getting Richard, 30, Rosario. So in a dynamic variable name, you can change its value and change its data type independently. So you can also define a Boolean data type in your variable. So let me erase it all, and I'll create a new variable with the data type as Boolean, and I'll call the variable name as Richard idiot. So if you already know, Boolean data type can only contain true or false in it. It cannot contain any other values. It can only contain either true or false inside it. So I'm gonna give it as true because that's true, and I'll print my variable name now. Print Richard idiot. So let me try it now. So yeah, it's working. What if I give the value as false? False. Now if I run it, and again it works. So now I hope you're clear with how to define a variable in Dart. Now let's move on into list. So what is a list? List is a collection of items. I hope you know already. Well, if you want to define a list, you can say define the data type as list, and the name of the list, I'll say L, the name of my list, and I'll give some values inside it. Well, my first value might be A, B, C. Well, you can give any values, any names or any numbers, it doesn't matter. And I will give a number. For example, I will give the number as 30. Alright, so I have defined the list successfully, and now if I go and print it, print my list L, and I will run it. So yeah, my list has been successfully printed, and you can even do list operations in Dart. So let me do some list operations. My name of my list is L, and I'll say L.add, and I will add another new value into my list. I will call it Z, and yeah, and I will add another value also. I'll add another value 20. Now let me print my list, print L. So let's see how it works. Oh my god, semicolon. Yeah, so the value is 20 and it has been added to my list. What if I want to remove values from my list? There is functions for that too. I'll say L.remove, and I'll remove the value C, for example, and also I'll remove the value L.remove 30. And now let's print our list. If I run it now, so yeah, this is my original list, and then I added two values into my list, z and 20, and then I removed two values, c and 30 from my list, and this is my final list. We will be using lists in Flutter a lot. And now let's dive into functions, and functions will be used everywhere. So literally our dot code will be made of functions. So let's see what are functions. So let me now erase it all. So now I will define a new function and I'll call it void hello. So this function will greet the users probably, and here I'll say print hello. So will this function run automatically? Let's see that. So it's not printing the hello part in this console, because I told you, right, whatever given inside the void main part will be the only part that is running. This is the main part of the function, and anything inside this will be the only part that is running. So what should we do? Should we copy this whole function and paste it inside it? No, what we can do is we can call our function inside this void main. How can I do that? Is I can just say hello, the name of my function, and brackets, so that it knows that is the function, and a semicolon. Now I'll run it, and my function will be called inside this void main, so that my console will return the respective output of the function. And what does this void mean? Void means there will be no return statement. If you are familiar with functions, you know functions give a return value. They will return something, some value or a number or a boolean. They will return something. But if it's a void function, it can't return anything. Let me ask my function to return a, and I'll give a semicolon, and let me run it now. So it's showing me the value of type string can be written from the function hello, because it has a return type of void. Void means nothing, so it will return nothing. So what can I do to make my function return the value hey? So I should change this function from a void type function to the data type of the return value. So this return value is a string, so I should change it from the void function to a string function. I will say string, oh my god, hello. Yeah, so this function is going to return me a string. That is what I'm saying by saying the string as, setting the string as hello. So this function will return me a string. Now if I run it and I will remove this print statement, what I'll do is, since my function is returning something, I need to store my function in a variable and then print that variable. So I'll say a equals hello, and then I'll say print a. I'll run this now. So it's showing me an error. Why is it showing me an error? Because I just said I told you dot variables needs to be set on data type. So this variable is returning a string, so I need to set it as a string. So I'll say string a equals hello. All right, now it will work. So yeah, I'm getting the output as hey. My function is returning a string hey, and I'm getting the output as hey. And there is an easier way to do this. There is an easier way to make my function return stuff. So what I can do is I'll remove all of these, and I'll just say equal to and an greater than symbol, and then hey. I'll add another y. Okay. So this part works just as the same as the previous one. We return something using the return statement, right? We are doing the same thing by using this shortcut. So what if I run it now? So it's successfully returning as hey part. So you can return small stuff using this method. You can say an equal to and then a greater than symbol and any value you want to return according to the data type of the function. If you don't understand any of the stuff I'm saying, then make sure you know the basics of programming, because you need to know how a function works before you know how it works in a Dart programming language. So make sure you know the basics of programming and then come back to this video if you don't understand stuff. And still, if you don't understand after knowing the basics, I would recommend you to go to this Dart pad and write the code I'm writing side by side, so you know how it works and you can experiment with this code. Okay, so now we are going to dive into object-oriented programming in Dart. Well, I'll say the same thing again. You need to know the basics of object-oriented programming before you dive into this. I'm not going to explain you all the object-oriented programming concepts. I'm just going to explain you how it works in Dart. So let's get started. I'll erase this part, and I will erase this part. Now let's define a class. So I will define a class and I will call it as pet, class pet, and here I will give some basic arguments like string, a name for my pet, and I will call it by default as Jimmy, and an age for my pet, int age, and the default age will be, for example, 12. All right, so now we can create multiple objects with from this class. We can create multiple pet objects. So how to do it? You can go inside this void main part and you can say pet. You will give the data types before the variables, right? Similarly, for a object, the data type is the class, so we need to say pet, which is the name of the class, and I will say p, name of my variable, and here I will say pet. So I'm creating a new pet object inside the variable p, and I will give a semicolon, and this new pet object will be created. I will create another pet object, pet p1. So this is p and p1, and here I will create a new pet object. Alright, so now I have created two new pet objects. Now we can try and get the names, name of those two pets. Well, I'll say p.name, print p.name, semicolon, and print p.age, semicolon, oh my god, semicolon. Similarly, I will say print p1.name, print p1.age. So I'm defining my classes. I'm printing the name and ages of my objects, and now I'll run it. Let's see what I'm getting. So P's name is Jimmy and his age is 12. P1's name is also Jimmy and his name is 12, because these are the default arguments. We can't change it. Whatever pet we create, how many objects we create, their name is going to be same and their age is going to be same. So what if I want to have separate names for my two pets? For example, if I want my pet P to have a separate name and a separate age, and pet P1 to have another separate name and a separate age. So to do that, I'll create another new function inside my class with the same name of my class. I'll call the function as pet, and inside it I will pass two arguments. I won't give any values to those variables now. I'll just define those variables and call those two variables inside my function. I'll say string of name. This function has two arguments. One is the string name, another one is the int age. Now I'll close it, and now I'll open a curly brace, and inside my body of my function, what I'll do is I'll say this dot name equals name. So what will happen is, this is the object I'm creating. So this can be p1, p, this will be this part will be replaced by p or p1. So what will happen is, any name we are passing into this, inside we will be passing name and age. So any age we are passing, any name we are passing will be assigned as its name. So here I will say this dot age equals age. So you will understand when we run it. So we define these two. Now what we need to do is, I'll go to my pet p, the part where I define my pet, and here I will say the name. I need to define two variables because my function is getting two arguments, string name and int age. So I need to define them in the part where I'm creating a new object. So I'll say Timmy, and I'll close it, and I'll give a age for it. I'll say 10. 10 is the age for my Timmy, which is my first pet. And for the second pet, I will similarly define a name and a age. So I will give the name as Richard, and I will set the age as 12 tabs. Alright, so now I defined the name and age for two of my pets, and now when I run it, so the name of my first pet is Timmy and its age is 10, and the name of my second pet is Richard and its age is 12. Well, what if there is something called as methods? I hope you already know what are methods. So to create a method inside this, well, I'll create a method called sit. Pets obey our commands, right? So what if I'm asking my pet to sit? What will it do? I'll say void sit, and inside this body of this function, I'll say print sits down. So whenever I command my pet to sit, it sits down. Alright, so I'll end it by a semicolon. Now I'll go ahead and call the sit function here. So I'll say p.sit. I'm asking my pet p to sit. So if I run it now, well, semicolon. Alright, so my pet sits down. What if I ask my pet p1 to sit? This method will work for any object I'm creating. I'm saying p1.sit. Oh, semicolon. And my p1 sits down too. So that's great. These are how methods work in Dart. Now, how to inherit a class into another one. For example, I'll just classify this class as pet. So what if I'm talking about a specific pet like cat or dog? How to inherit all these characteristics into the dog or cat? Well, we can say class dog extends pet. So my dog class is extending the pet class, and I'll open a curly brace, and here I'll say dog, because we need to define a name for my dog and class too. So we need to create a function with the same name as my class. So what I'll do is dog string name comma int age, and here I'll say super. So just in case you don't know, these two are the same line, so I'll just extend it a little bit. So here I'll say super, and inside super I'll say name comma age and a semicolon. So I'll just extend it a little bit more. Yeah, so what is happening right here? So I'm creating a new dog class and I'm extending the pet class inside it. So what will happen is this dog class will have all the characteristics of the pet class. This dog can sit without even, we didn't create a command called sit, we didn't create a method called sit, yet it will sit, and we need to assign its name and age. For that, what I'm doing is I'm saying string name int age, and then I'm saying super name and age. So what will happen is this part of the code will be copied right away, will be replicated right away into here. So this dog, whenever we create a new dog and give a name and age to it, it will be directly assigned to its name and age. Now let's create a new method inside this dog function. So I'll create a new method. So how can I create a new method inside this that only my dog class can access? Well, I'll say void speak. So how does a dog speak? It barks. So I'll say inside my function body, I will say print woof woof. Well, that's how a dog speaks, right? And I'll end it by a semicolon. So that's it. I created a new method. So we create a new class that extends the pet class, and we assigned it a name and age by extending it from the pet class too, and then we created a new method for it specifically, which is the speak method. So now let's initialize a dog object. So what I'll say is I'll create a new object right here. I'll erase all this stuff. Yeah, I'll create a new object right here, and I will call it dog d1, and I will say dog of, and I will give it a name and age. I will call it Jim, and I'll give a age as 20 and a semicolon. And now this dog object can access all the functions and methods from both the pet class and the dog class. So let me give you an example. I'll say d1.sit. So this method is not inside the dog class, it is inside the pet class. So I'm saying d1.sit, and below that I'll say d1.speak, and I'll give a semicolon. Now I'll get it here and I will run it. Say sits down, woof woof. So my dog speaks and sits down. What if I do the same for my pet and p and p1? Will it work? So let's try. I'll say p.sit. I'll just try for one of them. I'll say p.sit. Sit already worked. Let's say speak works for p.speak. And what if I run it now? So yeah, it's showing us the method speak isn't defined for the class pet. So the class pet doesn't have the method speak inside it. It only has the method sit, and the class pet can't access the class dog. But however, the class dog can access the class pet. So the class dog can have all the functions and methods from the pet class. However, the pet class can't have the functions from the dog class. So this might look a little bit confusing for beginners. I would recommend you to run the same code in another .pad console in your computer or laptop. I think it also works in your cell phone too, so you can run it in your cell phone too. And if you feel like all these things are a little bit too much for you, well, you might be a beginner and you might not know the basics of programming. Well, I would recommend you to learn the basics of programming and then continue with the course. And well, if you know the basics of programming and still don't understand how Dart works or the syntax of Dart, well, don't worry about it. As we progress towards the course, you will learn, we'll be coding more on Dart programming language only. So you'll be learning more and more about Dart. So as you code more in Dart, you will get more used to it. So don't worry about it. And with that, the basics of Dart is completely covered. And if you found this video useful, please leave a like. If you are having any doubts or questions, leave them in the comment section. I will definitely reply them. And I'm releasing new videos every week, so don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.